Starvation. The slow, agonizing breakdown of the body as it consumes itself to survive. It weakens the muscles, dulls the mind, and drives those it holds captive to do the unthinkable in order to survive. Starvation is relentless, leaving the body fragile, emaciated, and teetering on the edge of life. Gateway has always been a bit of a cruel master. Even in the early days when the map first arrived, learning to survive in its expanse as a carno was rough. Over time, many things have changed, including the size and the ability of carno itself. But one thing remains the same. Carnotaurus must be ever vigilant and on the hunt. My fresh spawn carno was no different to her eventual adult counterpart. She was simply hungry. Luckily, I spotted something darting into the trees ahead of me, and decided to give chase. I spotted my target lying down in the bushes. A fresh spawn Cerrado, though not on my diet, had organs that would get me started on my path to adulthood. The area I was in contained multiple corpses. This is, of course, a huge red flag as a juvenile. One I chose to ignore in the face of a few free meals in the phase of my life where I was growing the fastest and therefore starving more quickly. It's all fun and games, though, until you find yourself surrounded by a pack of raptors. They hadn't noticed me in my scant little shrub yet, and I decided I wasn't going to wait until they did. In very typical baby carno fashion, I came charging out of my bush at full speed. Time to go. Don't stop, don't look back, just sprint. They gave up fairly quickly, thankfully, and I knew it was time to find greener pastures elsewhere, far away from the raptors that would end my life too soon. Ultimately, I opted to go to West Access. This area was popular with dilos due to it being one of their more common spawn zones. And I wanted line diet. When it comes to finding people as a carnivore, you have to remember, everyone needs water eventually. I made my way toward the pond, until I heard a raptor bark in that direction. Sketchy. But I weighed almost 700 kilograms. As long as it was alone, I would probably be okay. Regardless, caution was warranted. I decided to change course and take the more covered route into the main section of West Access. As I crossed the plains toward the pond, I smelled food. It wasn't diet, but I was starting to worry about my overall stomach contents. And in just about every case, it's always better to keep your stomach full on less than ideal food, as opposed to turning down a meal and then starving to death as a result. As the pond came into view, I spotted a Herrera. Now that was on my diet. I carefully crept toward my new target, preparing an ambush on the ambush predator. He didn't see me coming. It wasn't a large meal, but it was nutrition all the same. A short time later, I made my way back to the pond after circling the area and picking off a few goats. I had planned to get a drink before leaving, considering I hadn't had much luck finding players. But then I heard a sub-raptor F-call. A couple steps away from the water, with the intention of getting a little distance to better assess the situation, revealed a dilo. I wasn't sure what was going on yet, but I crouched to get closer. He'd already heard me, possibly seen me. Oh well. I charged him and then spotted the two raptors. Shoot. I was definitely small enough that even with the second raptor being a sub, they could pin me easily. I needed to quickly reassess the situation. With the Dilo, the mixed pack had speed to catch up to me. With the raptors, they could pin me to the ground. I gained what distance I could, and decided that my only real option was to show them I wasn't an easy target, even if I was barely a sub. I wanted to kill the smaller raptor if possible. Taking him out would at least prevent me from being a pinnable target. But with the near constant pressure, I was burning through my stamina like crazy. Finally, with my stamina below safe thresholds and my blood draining like I'd been brutally stabbed, I attempted to back out of the fight. They had been running and pouncing a lot too. Their stamina couldn't be great either. My attempt paid off, at least for a short time. I was able to sit in a bush and start healing and regaining my lost stamina. But I had a feeling they wouldn't give up that easily. They'd be back. I kept a close eye on the plains, prepared to stand and fight again at a moment's notice. Sure enough, just as my stamina was getting close to full, I saw them. My general rule of thumb, especially when I know I'm being tracked, is to try and attack before the hunters know exactly where I am. This, though, was not a safe place for me to fight. Too many steep drops, one wrong move, and I'd skid off one of them, likely breaking my legs in the process. No, I needed to take them back into the flatter area of the plains. This time the raptors were much more pounce happy. Fine by me as long as they kept missing. That was stamina burned. When the Dilo bit me again, though, I knew things were quickly going from bad to worse again. My stamina was already lower than before, and now I was back to bleeding out like someone had turned on the faucet. I was, however, running with the bleed resistance mutation, so I could only hope that it would do its job and carry me through as I attempted once more to escape. The adult raptor had fallen behind, likely low or out of stamina after the chase, and the Dilo had begun to lag as well. The sub-raptor, however, was not giving up, and my own stamina was dangerously low. A charge to the Dilo's face sent him scurrying back once more. But that didn't stop the sub-raptor from pouncing me. I bucked him off, but now my stamina was all but gone, and the additional bleed the raptor had applied had me incredibly worried. This was not looking good. And then, quite suddenly, he raced away. I waited for the other raptor to show up, or for the dilo to poke its head out. But when they didn't, I began sneaking away. To what end, I wasn't sure, but I had to try. As I went, I spotted a familiar face sitting in the bushes and bit it immediately. It was the dilo. I didn't actually know if I had the time to eat, but I decided that if I somehow got away, I didn't want to do so on an empty stomach. The instant I was full, I began trotting away. The raptors still hadn't reappeared, and I wasn't sure if they were going to, but I needed to find a spot to heal up and regain my stamina regardless. I didn't go far, just along the ridge and behind a nearby tree. I didn't want to risk going too far and still being out of stamina by the time they tracked me down. They didn't find me. I sat and healed off the bleed and the damage, watching them wander into view momentarily, before they finished off the dilo carcass and darted off in the wrong direction. Once I had mostly healed, I began searching the area for food again. I smelled a dead boar that was being eaten by two very small dilos. Mine now. But what I really needed was water. I had waited as long as I could so that I'd be healthy before I approached that danger zone again. And I was very glad that I did. Sure enough, there they were. The larger of the two put a pretty hefty pounce into me before I finally managed to knock him off with a nearby tree. But with two of them, I was once again worried about being pinned. But only for a moment. The sub didn't help out, and his buddy went down. Sometime later, Farmer joined me. Unfortunately, we weren't having much luck in the food department. He was very close to starvation, and I was well on my way there. We were forced to resort to eating from a corpse of our own kind. Not exactly ideal, but survival was the only option. We made our way into J sector, having heard a fresh spawn dibble. Also not much, but any morsel could be the thing that kept us going long enough to find a decent meal. With nothing left in Highlands that we could see, we moved into West Rail. Farmer, having gone into the red, logged out in hopes of a better future another day. I, however, wanted to take one last loop through the area and hoped I'd get lucky. All I found were aggressive stegos and a raptor that had been killed by the local dino. With my own stomach going into the red and my time up for the day, I logged out as well. Perhaps next time I logged in, the situation would be less dire. I had very little time to find something to eat. Every second I was slowly dying, growing weaker. And so when I spotted a tiny carno ahead of me, I did what must be done to prevent my death. Sorry, little dude. It wasn't much, but I wasn't actively dying now. I made my way toward the nearest water source, hoping to spot food there. Any food. Farmer had already made an attempt to save himself, and had ended up logging back out nearby. He was counting on me to find something, anything, to save us both. Quite unfortunately, the pond was infested with raptors. And I do mean infested. with my stomach so low and not much hope for survival now that they'd spotted me. I did perhaps the stupidest big brain desperation move possible. I started to charge. And I didn't stop. I didn't care about my stamina. I didn't care about much of anything. Even if I killed them, they'd never let me eat. I was dead either way, so might as well plow through them like a freight train while cackling madly. My madness gave them pause, and when I ran off into the open field and away, they did not pursue me for long. I was still incredibly hungry though, and my stamina was much lower now. So when a small dibble caught my eye, I didn't think twice. Gateway provides. Who was I to argue with what it chose to offer me? I was on a timer. Low stamina, almost back into the red on food. This dibble had to die. No mercy, no games. Only death. I ate quickly. Farmer was logging in, and I needed to meet him halfway with an organ, or he was very likely to die before he reached this meal. Finally, I spotted him racing toward me, and practically threw the dibble's heart at him. We were saved. From then on, starvation became a very real companion. Though we managed to stay out of the red, feeding 2 carnos is not an easy task. In most cases, though, something would come along to keep us fed. In this particular case, it was a Tanto. Incredibly dangerous with carno's balance changes, but only as dangerous as the player's skill. This one seemed inexperienced, and with Farmer being smaller and unable to charge it, he ultimately stood back out of the way while I took it down. The next day, we were right back to starving. A mega pack of Cerratos beside Highland Lake had chased us out of the area soon after we'd logged in, and we could only hope that we'd find someone in South. As we crossed the plains, though, we saw a large pack of Dilos fleeing from Cerratos on the other side of the river. We opted to get water and then loop around and either scavenge the remains or pick off the survivors. It seemed like a decent plan, but the distance we had to travel to get water safely, considering the dinos we'd spotted at the waterfall, and then to get all the way around to where we'd seen the fighting, well, it wasn't a quick trip. By the time we arrived, it was getting dark, and our hunger levels were desperate once more. And to top it off, there didn't appear to be any leftovers from the fight we'd seen earlier. We didn't have many options. Unsure how many Cerratos were there, but realizing that they were also the only things we could really hunt in the area, the very real threat of starvation had us preparing to fight. The only food we could smell was dangling from the cliff, unreachable. The instant one of the Cerratos appeared over the rise, we attacked. There were 2 of them. We could do this. We had no choice but to do this. Another younger carno appeared and joined us in the hunt. Desperate, starving. But not that desperate and starving. We didn't dare risk swimming. Carno swims too slowly, and for all we knew, these Cerratos might be buddy-buddy with the dino. No, we opted to go around. But by the time we reached the other side, the Cerratos had vanished. Of course they did. Why would they stick around when they knew 3 very hungry carnos were searching for them? By now, Farmer was actively starving to death. We were running out of options and running out of time. I spotted a Herrera on the waterfall and snatched it for Farmer. It wasn't more than a mouthful. Without those Cerratos, we were as good as dead. We searched for as long as we reasonably could. My stomach went red, and the real countdown began. Farmer decided he was going to risk attempting to slide down the waterfall to where the food we'd smelled before was dangling. His thought process was that at least if he died in the attempt, I could survive off his corpse. And then, just as he stood and walked toward the falls, they appeared.
Cerratos, they're right here.
On you?
Yeah.
I got those now.
So do I. I'm vomiting.
They're on me.
Yep. I am almost dead. I'm gonna die.
Head charge on that one. Head charge on that one.
I just got hit. I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die. Oh my goodness.
Drop one.
Keep him off.
Drop the other one.
Eat. Oh my good gravy!
Oh my goodness. That was epic. I am red crit.
Oh my goodness, I was literally Oh,
No stam. No stam whatsoever. Oh my goodness.
oh my goodness. I'm so glad
I
they...
am shaking so bad.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and comment your thoughts below. If you're new around here, please subscribe for more content like this. Thanks again, and I'll see you soon.